And what a speech it was. What a mark of respect for the Prime Minister. Trinidad and Tobago being yet another country where the Prime Minister has got the opportunity to address the representatives of the people there. And towards the end, we saw how his counterpart of TNT also thanked the Prime Minister for everything that India has done, standing by the people of TNT in times of crisis through vaccines, by providing laptops, by doing a whole lot of things like high-tech programs, a regional science laboratory for forensic sciences, and a lot more that India has done for TNT.
Yes, and now pretty soon we'll have the talks take place as well, formally between the leaders, and we will await and hear perhaps as to what kind of agreements and pacts have been finalized between India and Trinidad and Tobago. But let's talk about the address itself. If we still have our guests with us, Ambassador C. Rajshekhar, former Indian Deputy High Commissioner to Trinidad and Tobago, and also Dr. Aparajita Kashyap, School of International Studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. Ambassador Rajshekhar, to what extent were these two addresses, the Prime Minister's, the Indian Prime Minister, and then his counterpart in Trinidad and Tobago, reflective of the kind of ties that India and Trinidad and Tobago have had in the past and the future in terms of how they want to take things forward, particularly in areas that are proving to be challenging for the entire world, be it mastering AI, charting the way forward on AI, or even climate change?
Both the speeches are very effusive, full of bonhomie and goodwill for each other. Our Prime Minister has spoken with a call that we have always worked together. In that spirit, let's work even closer together for the good of Trinidad and Tobago, for India and for the region of the Caribbean and the whole wide world. So he has recalled that India has always been at the forefront of placing the aspirations of Global South at the front and center of global discourses, and we will continue to do that so that the Global South gets the rightful stage in world affairs. And he has recalled how India has been developing in the recent years and how we have been sharing our developmental experience, and we will continue to do that. And Prime Minister Kamala Sir has heartily reciprocated that sentiment in full measure when she said that India has been a trusted friend and a reliable partner. So that's what exactly she said. And she said that the two nations linked by historical bonds and hold a bright future. So all and all, both leaders, through this noble and sacred institution of Trinidadian Parliament, where that chair that is graced by Honorable Prime Minister has been gifted in 1968 by the people of India to the people of Trinidad. It's all great symbolism and bonhomie, very effusive, and it reiterates the commitment of the governments of both India and Trinidad and Tobago to work closely together in the great tradition that has been to looking forward to work even closer.
Yes, Dr. Kashyap, if you are with us, a clear message going out against terrorism as well. The Prime Minister pointing to how there was an onslaught by terrorist forces on the Red House, which is the Parliament House of Trinidad and Tobago, where the event took place. And the Prime Minister clearly saying that we must deny terrorism any space, and we value all those who stand with us in the fight against terrorism, no matter where it originates from. So another country enlisted into those countries that don't have double standards on terrorism.
Of course, he has clearly highlighted terrorism has no room in open, progressive, liberal democracies like ours. And it is unfortunate that both the parliament houses have faced the attacks by terrorists. So we have shared experience there also. And there is the common determination to fight it in all its forms and manifestations.
Yes, Dr. Kashyap, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, definitely. And, it's a small country. The security challenges are not so immense. terrorism is an issue, and more so because it's an island nation. So, there's a border which is very difficult to control. You have water bodies all around, like, Somalia has been facing. So, these armed violence is also there. It's some internal issues, money laundering. So apart from terrorism, these are some of the security challenges that Trinidad and Tobago is facing. And India is in a position, in fact, to offer a lot of help in this regard. That country being a small country, newly democratized, India has a lot of role to step in as in thwarting the security challenges that Trinidad and Tobago is facing.
Yes, Ambassador, another point that the Prime Minister made was, for us there are no limits to our cooperation with you and we will always be guided by your priorities. Is it important to note here that India is working with countries of the Global South to respond to their priorities, not thrusting its own interests on them?
That is very certainly articulated that we are not mercantile in our approach. We will be guided by your aspirations and your priorities, but we stand ready to share our developmental experience in the manner that you wish, the recipient state wants. That's what distinguishes India from other mercantile countries which seek to impose their what they want to sell and leave the countries debt-ridden. So that's clearly a distinguishing feature, making India very different. So that Prime Minister has articulated very eloquently.
Yes, also Dr. Kashyap, could you weigh in on this and also tell us if the world increasingly, particularly the developing world, sees India as a leader of sorts, a country that really puts forth their voice on global fora, on regional fora, be it G7 or any other grouping. And here also the Prime Minister spoke of how this was in a way an article of faith for India in its G20 presidency. The Prime Minister has coined the philosophy of Mahasagar as well, mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth across region. We know about Vaccine Maitri, we know about how India believes in climate justice and response in disaster situations.
Very optimistic speeches by the two leaders and power packed. And you could see how optimistic was the Prime Minister. And this goes on to say about the acceptability of India across regions and across the developed world. Because India has been very cautious regarding its foreign policy or taking stands on issues, glaring issues across world. So that gives India a lot of leverage. The second thing that India has been very, very forthcoming on, that despite the size, be it small country, big country, India has treated them as equal partners and never tried to, overwhelm them with its size and economic potential. So that gives a lot of comfort to the countries of the Global South to bring India on board and let it have a say when it comes to global fora. When we talk about, say, human rights, or we talk about climate change problems, or poverty tackling, or development issues, or unfair trade practices, India, I endorse that it has more acceptability, and therefore it becomes the natural leader of the Global South.
Yes, Ambassador Kashyap, I beg your pardon. Ambassador Rajshekhar, Prime Minister mentioned, made particular mention of AI. He said the kind of tools that India is developing, India will be very happy to help countries like Trinidad and Tobago on that front. UPI is already in play, as Trinidad and Tobago is already the first Caribbean nation to adopt UPI. And then he also spoke about women-led development, which of course is a nod or a bow to the top leaders, the two top leaders of that country, the President and the Prime Minister. But how significant are these comments really?
Yes.
Of course, you've been asking what is that we take from helping small little countries. So UPI is an example. So whereby we are placing Indian rupee on the global stage as an international currency. The more traction it has, the farther will be the reach and the global economic footprint of India. So it is a great step forward in that direction. Of course, Trinidad and Tobago being a small country, it aspires and looks up to India when they see that in the last decade alone, we have lifted about 250 million people above extreme poverty. They see India as a beacon of development through our developmental partnership. So in all these things, India has been, and Prime Minister has renewed our assurance that we will work closely together. He called upon his counterpart Kamala Visesar to work together. Kamala Visesar, I would like to recall that she was earlier Prime Minister. She is a person of Indian origin, and she was invited while I was there. We sent her to India to attend the Prasar Bharati Divas in 2005 that was held in Hyderabad. That time she was not even Prime Minister, she was only the leader of the opposition. But she has gone on to become the Prime Minister, head of the Commonwealth, heads of governments, 50 countries community. And she has managed to stage a comeback by virtue of her popularity, her good work, and what all effusive words she has said about India and our leader. It's truly touching. It's a great honor for all of us that Prime Minister commands such huge respect that he is awarded the highest honor of Trinidad and Tobago. First time that a foreigner has been bestowed this award.
Yes, Dr. Kashyap, what to your mind could be the newer areas of cooperation? Now going forward, we expected some forward movement on some new areas of cooperation. We've always been saying that India is a technology powerhouse and there's a lot that TNT stands to gain, even though its per capita income is very high at $19,000. That's quite a bit. And it is rich in hydrocarbons. It has partnerships in the Caribbean with North America, South America, with China as well. But what is it that we can expect in terms of newer areas of cooperation where it can be a win-win partnership between TNT and India?
And we did hear the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago in her the address where she thanked the Prime Minister for addressing the joint session, mention an investment treaty as well.
Let me just take you to a little bit of a background of Trinidad and Tobago, and that is where we need to collaborate more. Trinidad and Tobago, compared to Guyana, is more of an industrial or a manufacturing country. Guyana is essentially an agrarian economy. So it has a huge service sector, and that is where India can make inroads. That is one potential area of collaboration, the service sector. One other potential area of cooperation which I can see, or I would like to see, is the defense collaboration. So because maritime security is a major potential threat for Trinidad and Tobago, and then let's see how these dialogues evolve, and do we see something coming out in terms of defense cooperation. Third area of cooperation I can see is in terms of legal advocacy. The marriage laws are very similar. This Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha, it plays a key role in advocating on marriage laws. And because we are similar law-based countries, so Indian advocacy on women's rights, or say Hindu marriage laws, on gender equality, all this can be another area of contribution. Given the fact that, and then because we are both good democracies, and I must say that Trinidad and Tobago has a commendable democratic record. If we go by the Freedom House Index, on the scale of 40 in terms of political rights, Trinidad and Tobago scores 33 out of 40. In terms of civil liberties, 49 out of 60. So two democracies come together, and the very fact that Modi has been conferred the highest civilian honor goes on to prove that he is a global leader. His global leadership has been recognized. So there are then more areas and potential areas of collaboration. Last area that I would like to highlight is, and I have told this earlier also, so companies like ONGC Videsh, which had a presence, it owned some oil stack in Trinidad and Tobago, and due to some partnership issues, it had to pull out. So these countries can be reinstated, they can be requested to make fresh bids and go into the large petroleum and natural gas sector that Trinidad and Tobago has.
And Ambassador Rajshekar, would you like to add to that? Because I believe you mentioned how this is a far-flung part of the world, conventional thinking-wise, where India is concerned, but connectivity is an area that can be worked upon, building on the bridge of what we already have in terms of the diaspora there, about 45% of that country, of a certain kind of profile. Really, when you look back at the 180 years that have been referred to as the Girmit years going there, they are of course Hindus, and they have a tremendous link with India based on faith and culture as well.
Yes, please. So some of the areas, in fact, the Prime Minister of Trinidad, Kamala Visesarji, has outlined. These include, using Trinidad, availing Trinidad as the gateway to the Caribbean community, because in that region, Trinidad and Tobago is the largest and most vibrant economy on the basis of its hydrocarbon potential. And also, Ayurveda can be promoted. There is already considerable traction, and we can utilize Trinidad and Tobago given its traction. I think there is the idea of establishing a chair at the University of West Indies. In fact, we started this initiative 2 decades ago. We had sent at our own initiative and our cost an Ayurveda professor. We have been trying to get this professor to be able to treat clinically. That was a touchy factor, but they agreed that they would encourage the Trinidadian medical professionals to study Ayurveda as an additional branch and also a post-graduation option. But now there will be full-fledged chair to promote Ayurveda, and through this, we can hope to promote and propagate Ayurveda further. And the investment treaty and technology, these would enable that this far-flung, the distance does not continue to be a hindrance, because where there is goodwill, where there is shared aspiration to work together, we can aspire to work. They have identified more areas of mutual interest. We can continue to work in those areas.
Yes, also what Dr. Kashyap had said on the potential insofar as defense collaboration is concerned. Do you agree that though there is modest defense collaboration at this point in time, we are engaging in discussions on maritime security and broader defense cooperation? There is collaboration on counterterrorism and intelligence sharing to combat violent extremism, yet no sharing of hardware, military hardware, that is, no such transfers, no joint exercises, formal defense treaties aren't there as well. So do you think that this could be another area of cooperation going forward, or do you think that this is going to take more time? Yes, Ambassador.
Oh, thank you. So I think the coastal security is something that India has been progressively improving. This is something of interest to Trinidad and Tobago also, because they do have this problem of arms smuggling, drugs and terrorism. So coastal security strikes an immediate chord. They would be greatly interested. And the related defense cooperation, both in training and also in equipment. These discussions are going on that we can hope to see more progress in the months and years to come.
Dr. Kashyap, what can we expect in terms of collaboration when it comes to sustainable development? Because like we've been saying, TNT is part of CARICOM and SIDS, small island developing countries. These countries are facing an existential threat because of rising sea levels, because of global warming leading to a climate change, and thus climate action is required if they are expected to continue to exist. So on this front, do you think that there will definitely be discussions between both the sides and there could be another understanding of sorts?
Definitely there is a possibility of talking about these, because as you said, these states are facing existential crisis, and two countries then become very important, India and Brazil. And because, Prime Minister is slotted to visit Brazil after this. So, and on the World Environmental Fora, these two countries have been very, very proactively talking about climate change and the impacts. Second thing is that, in terms of extraction of petroleum and natural gas, if India can offer a sustainable solution to extraction, that could be another contribution of India. China is very widely present in all these countries, Caribbean or Latin America. And Chinese are very smart. If you look at their modus operandi, they look at it from pure business perspective. They do not bring in their ideology. And this is where, when China comes, it's into infrastructure building and the rate at which they build. So sustainability gets compromised. So if India can give a solution to that. The other thing is, and I think Prime Minister Kamala Bisesar, she mentioned in her speech that they are going to give us ethanol, and that it's not only what India is going to give, it's what Trinidad and Tobago is also going to give us. And in terms of the India's motivation to switch to electrical vehicles by 2030 or biofuels by 2030, the contribution of the ethanol from Trinidad and Tobago will have definitely a great role to play.
Yes, and I could just see that Trinidad and Tobago is part of the International Solar Alliance, the ISA, which is an Indian initiative at the global stage, also again of the CIDI. But Ambassador Rajshekhar is still not part of the Global Biofuels Alliance, so perhaps that is something that could be explored or has probably been already explored, and we could expect an announcement too in just a short while from now.
Yes, in fact, the leadership of Trinidad and Tobago has been quite far-sighted and enlightened. They already commenced discussions internally, domestically, that what if Trinidad and Tobago runs out of gas, which means, when they run out of hydrocarbons, oil and gas, right now they do have. So they are far-sighted, they are interested in renewable energy. They have joined the International Solar Alliance, and also in biofuels also they are interested. So we need to take these like-minded countries along. That's what basically enhances India's stature, leadership image on the global stage.
So if you look at the overall perspective, Ambassador, then what would you say were the key takeaways from this visit? The substantive outcomes are yet to come out. We've seen a lot of grandeur, symbolism, but we've also seen a lot of emotional connect and cultural connect and ties of kinship and ancestry going back almost 2 centuries. And the Prime Minister announced OCI card for the 6th generation of Indians there in Trinidad and Tobago. So if we look at the overall perspective, then what do you think this visit has achieved?
Yes, before I go into substantially answer that, one more thing that is very emotive for them is tracing their ancestral roots in India. For example, before Kamala Bisesar ji, there was Mr. Basdev Pandey. When they visited India, then his ancestral roots were traced to Uttar Pradesh, today's Azamgarh Lakshmanpura place. So where he went to visit his village and offered to help build a school there. In fact, there are genealogy, those experts who help people find their roots, ancestral roots. In fact, Prime Minister has invited warmly all people of Trinidad and Tobago of Indian descent to come and trace their roots. This is something quite emotive for them. And this decision of the Government of India that Honorable Prime Minister has announced that up to 6th generation of Trini Indians will also be given OCI cards. This is very welcome for them, because I take you back, I was there in the year 2003. That was a time when this Lin Singri committee was appointed to work out the modalities of how to embrace the Indian diaspora which is spread all across the world into Mother India's embrace, and how to make, in terms of that time, the government's word was that जुगलबंदी करवाना भारतवंशी और भारतवासियों के बीच. These are Bhartavanshis, these people of Indian origin. So for that purpose, this OCI card was conceived. But in the first list of 16 nations, Trinidad was not included. In fact, that used to be a sore point. They used to ask us, why are you treating us differently, stepmotherly treatment from Mother India? So that has been more than adequately addressed, compensated generously by Prime Minister announcing sixth generation people also OCI. Now, you asked about what are the major takeaways. Firstly, all this symbolism gives the background and context that much more can be done. And the Prime Minister's visit is a huge landmark. And we can look forward to multiplying trade investment volumes and availing technology. We can work shoulder to shoulder in areas of mutual interest like development, healthcare, education, and infrastructure, and fintech, etc. And also we can promote regional cooperation, availing this goodwill across Caribbean community and Latin America.
Right. And in terms of issues related to internal security, there is a perception that there are high rates of crime as well in that part of the world, in the Caribbean, in multiple countries, Trinidad and Tobago included. Is there some scope for collaboration on law enforcement and general security as well there, considering the fact that these are economies that are trying to develop in very trying circumstances?
Yes,
Dr. Kashyap.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I'll just take another example from that hemisphere, Western Hemisphere. When Mexico was facing a lot of internal violence, Canada had stepped in to train the police force. So we can do the same. We can actually train the police force in tackling civil violence, because we have kind of been quite successful given the size of the country and the kind of diversity we have. So our experience in tackling these kind of armed violence, civil conflicts, and the armed violence emanate from the fact that you have two formidable ethnic groups. See the Indo-Trinidadians and the Afro-Trinidadians, and these formidable groups have always been vying for power, and therefore some of the conflicts emanate from there. But despite that, Trinidad and Tobago has been it's one of the best performing economies in the Caribbean country. So armed violence, yes, it is there, but not to the extent that it is going to harm the national economy or the national character. So I would say that India can step in terms of training and in supplies of some of the arms, not those arms in terms of combat, but small little arms which the normal police would require.
Okay.
So India has that chance.
Okay. And Ambassador Rajshekhar, is there more to be developed on the back of the cricket connect that Trinidad and Tobago, the entire Caribbean, in fact the West Indies has with India, because it brings in cricket now in its modern form, where you have IPLs, leagues like IPLs, brings with itself a lot of entertainment as well, where perhaps music and other art forms could also come in, like the Prime Minister mentioned the tabla and the I think he mentioned the steel drum.
Steel band.
Yes, steel band, yes.
Yes, much can be done because of the warmth and human bridge that exists between India and Trinidad and Tobago. Cricket certainly is a great connector, and we can jointly infect the large economy that US is of cricket fever, and that can be a big money spinner and game changer, so to say. Already it is happening. I think there is a Premier League where the Caribbeans,
Yes.
Chinese, West Indies cricket players and Indians also play. I think Prime Minister has also mentioned a couple of names, Nicholas Puran and Sunil Narendra, entertaining. I think as he spoke, they were playing in the US. So
Yes.
that shows the potential that we can work together, we can play together, we can add value and multiply.
Ambassador, also tell us a little about the popularity of Indian yoga there, of course, yoga as a whole, and also the Hindi language there, and also the popularity of films. You were referring to Swadesh in one of your earlier answers. So if you could tell us more about how, India's soft
Not just
power.
Hindi, Bhojpuri as well.
Bhojpuri, Hindi. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, in fact, Bhojpuri, there is chutney music. To simply recall, we say that Ram till I die. They made it Ram till I die. So, yoga is popular. There is Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Indian Culture, through which we propagate both yoga and Hindi language and Bollywood in our films. Swadesh, the context was, I think there was a tsunami in 2004 December, I think. So, following that tsunami, we wanted to basically connect and also raise little token funds. At that time, Swadesh movie was released, so I went and talked to this Caribbean Cinemas gentleman. He was very gracious, readily agreeing to throw open his facilities. And also we got, I think, for 2-3 days exhibiting license, permission for our purpose. So we did a benefit screening, benefit show kind of a thing, where that time I think High Commissioner was traveling. So I requested his lady wife, was very gracious. So she spoke, and people came paying big time money for a $100 ticket. They were willing to pay $1,000 so that some money can be raised and sent to the victims of tsunami that affected India in 2004 end. So it's very nice response, and many Indian movies and also music is very popular, and our popular singers, most of them, Udit Narayan, Kumar Sanu, all these lady singers also, all of them have been invited, they are hosted there with great admiration. And there are also radio stations which play Indian music and Indian cinema songs. So all in all, India is a household and plays a very prominent, avails a prominent place in the mind and hearts of Trini people. Not only limited to Indians, but also all of them. They may have their rivalry and political differences, but when it comes to, we also ensure that we don't, we avoid those fault lines between Trini Indians and Afro Trinis, that we connect with everybody. As Prime Minister also has showed that, he was very effusive, referring to, for example, the Senate President, Wade Mark, and the President, both of them are of African descent. So we don't make any distinction. Our reach is to entire population, all the people of Trinidad. That is our object of India's reach and friendship.
Certainly, certainly. Well, on that note, let me just thank you, Ambassador C. Rajshekhar, as well as Dr. Aparajita Kashyap for being with us on this special broadcast related to the Prime Minister's travel to Trinidad and Tobago, the second leg of his five-nation visit to not just the Caribbean, but also Africa as well as Latin America. In the meantime, what has happened is that, and we'll bring those pictures to you as well very soon, that there is a list of outcomes that we have got in terms of the MOUs and the agreements that have been signed. And these are an MOU in Indian Pharmacopoeia, agreement on Indian grant assistance for implementation of quick impact projects, program of cultural exchanges for the period 2025 to 28. There's an MOU on cooperation in sports. I'm sure cricket will be a big part of that. Another MOU on cooperation in diplomatic training, and another one on the re-establishment of 2 ICCR chairs for Hindi and Indian studies at the University of West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago. So a total of 6 MOUs and agreements/agreements that have been
Absolutely,
inked
and a
between
point
the
that
two
you were
sides.
making earlier, on that also there is a development. TNT side has announced it's joining India's global initiatives, that is Coalition of Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, and also the Global Biofuel Alliance. So
Oh,
we'll
wonderful.
thank,
It's already been part of the
yes,
CDRI as well as the International Solar Alliance. So Biofuels Alliance is a new one then.
right. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Ambassador Rajshekhar and Dr. Kashyap. For now, let's tell our viewers a little more about the address that the Prime Minister delivered in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has addressed the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago today, and he has addressed numerous parliaments, legislatures and other legislative bodies around the world.
His addresses, which transcend continents, are a testament to India's growing influence at the global stage. DD India's Abhishek Bose brings us this detailed report.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has had the unique opportunity to address several foreign parliaments. This outreach highlights India's growing role on the global stage and PM Modi's statesmanship. During his ongoing five-nation visit, he addressed the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Earlier, on July 3, 2025, Prime Minister Modi made history by becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to address the Parliament of Ghana. He will also address the joint session of Parliament in Namibia on 9 July 2025. These visits underscore India's commitment to uphold democratic ethos worldwide. In November 2024, he also made history in Guyana by becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to address their National Assembly. PM Modi addressed the joint session of US Congress twice, first on 8 June 2016 and again on 23 June 2023. These dual addresses highlight the deepening strategic partnership between India and the United States. In June 2019, he addressed the Parliament of Maldives, and in July 2018, he addressed the Parliament of Uganda. In December 2015, PM Modi addressed the Parliament in Afghanistan. Earlier in November 2015, he addressed the historic British Parliament in the United Kingdom. In 2015, PM Modi also addressed the Parliament of Mongolia, the National Assembly of Mauritius, and the Parliament of Sri Lanka. His parliamentary outreach began shortly after taking office in 2014. In November 2014, he made history by becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to address the Australian Parliament on the 18th, followed by a special session in Fiji on the 19th. Earlier that year, in August, he addressed the Constituent Assembly of Nepal, and his very first foreign parliament address was to the joint session of Parliament in Bhutan on June 16, 2014. Now let's take a look at the key messages of Prime Minister Narendra Modi during these addresses. A central theme is India's unwavering focus on the global south. He often highlights that progress cannot be achieved without giving a stronger voice to developing nations. He strongly advocates for peace and harmony worldwide. He calls for collective action to address complex global issues like climate change, pandemics, terrorism, and cybersecurity, emphasizing a human-centric globalization that brings well-being to all. His clear message to the world during conflict is only dialogue and diplomacy.
Well, we have been telling you that we will be bringing you the part where there is talks between the two sides, formal talks and then exchange of documents. You can see those images now. As I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, there's a list of outcomes that includes 6 items, MOUs/agreements that have been exchanged with, among other things as well, as you can see in those images there, gifts being exchanged as well. And you can see certain schematic documents also being exchanged there between the two sides, the two prime ministers holding that sort of
Memento.
I guess a design of a venue or a building. We don't have details on that at the moment, but we do have a list of the agreements as well as MOUs. There's an MOU on Indian Pharmacopoeia, the signing.
A token of appreciation of sweets and mithai from the people of Trinidad and Tobago, representing the success of this historic visit and the success of our bilateral relations. the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji of India present to the Honorable Prasar Bharati a small prototype of machinery and a processing unit as part of India's gift to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Will now present the Honorable Shri Narendra Modi ji, Prime Minister of India, with a token of appreciation of sweets and mithai from the people of Trinidad and Tobago, representing the success of this historic visit and the success of our bilateral relations. The Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji of India present to the Honorable Prasar Bharati a small prototype of machinery and a processing unit as part of India's gift to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Will now present the Honorable Shri Narendra Modi ji, Prime Minister of India, with a token of appreciation of sweets and mithai from the people of Trinidad and Tobago, representing the success of this historic visit.
So those are visuals that we are getting from Port of Spain, and you saw the exchange of agreements also take place between both the sides. 6 agreements in all have been signed. To give you more details, an MOU and Indian pharmacopoeia has been signed. The signing of this MOU will provide an improved access to Indian pharmaceutical products to the market in Trinidad and Tobago, and will help the citizens of the island nation to get quality medicines at affordable prices. Remember, India is known as the pharmacy of the world, and it showed why it is known as the pharmacy of the world during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, in her speech, she mentioned that she had a cough in the morning and she took an Indian medicine.
Absolutely, and she also thanked India for the kind of support that India had given to TNT people during times of crisis, including the pandemic. Another one is an agreement on the Indian grant assistance for implementation of quick impact projects. This will further strengthen development cooperation partnership between the two countries. So India will continue to help Trinidad and Tobago through such development projects, which are also quick impact.
They could be something like those small industrial units for which the prototype was also given by Prime Minister Modi to the Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister.
Yes, also agro-processing machinery has been given under it in the past. A lot of efforts have also been made in the health domain. A program of cultural exchanges for the period of 2025 to 2028 has also been agreed to, an exchange between the two sides. Remember, culture is a very, very strong linkage between India and TNT, considering the generations of kinship and ancestry that both
for example, the International
share.
Yoga Day was celebrated last month very, very enthusiastically in Trinidad and Tobago in Port of Spain. For that matter.
Another one, an MOU on cooperation in sports, and like Gautam has been saying, cricket may well be part of this, and there was references, of course, to cricket in the many addresses that took place there, particularly the one where Prime Minister spoke of how it is so popular, of course, in both the countries, and how Indians also cheer for the West Indies team, except when they are playing against India.
And it can be expanded to other traditional Indian sports like Kabaddi is major now in India. It has a lot of broadcasting happening, a lot of players coming up. Since there are a lot of people of Indian origin there, Kabaddi could be promoted further as well, apart from cricket.
Yes. Another one, of course, is an MOU on cooperation in diplomatic training. We know that ITEC slots range across sectors, and diplomacy is also one of them, where training takes place, and this one is particularly linked to diplomatic training.
Yes, India in fact does a lot of that work with a number of countries, not just diplomatic training, but also for armed and police forces.
Yes, and of course, last but not the least, the 6th one, MOU on the re-establishment of 2 ICCR chairs of Hindi and Indian Studies at the University of West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago. So this is the final one.
Yes, Hindi, of course, is a huge common link, apart from Bhojpuri, between India and Trinidad and Tobago, and Indian Studies again, because of the kind of profile of the people there, nearly half the population, Indian Studies, tremendous interest, especially where tracing ancestry is concerned.
Absolutely, that exercise of mapping is taking place, like the Prime Minister said, but announcements have also been made with regards to extension of OCI card facility up to 6th generation of Indian diaspora members in TNT. Earlier, this facility was available up to the 4th generation of the Indian diaspora members there also. A gifting of 2,000 laptops to school students in TNT has also been announced. A formal handing over of agro-processing machinery to Namdevco. This is worth $1 million US. Also holding of artificial limb fitment camp in TNT for 50 days for 800 people. So small gestures, but important gestures at the same time.
Yes, there's been another gesture in the meantime, Munmun. The campaign that the Prime Minister has spearheaded at home has been taken to Trinidad and Tobago as well. The campaign that is called Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, that's one tree in the name of the mother. So a tree has been planted in Red House, that is the seat of Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, jointly by Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Besseser, as well there in those premises. It's a neem tree which is well, indigenous to India, grows all over the place really, and a very hardy, and its medicinal value is also tremendous.
Absolutely. And in terms of solarization also, there will be solarization of the headquarters of TNT's Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs by providing rooftop photovoltaic solar panels, a reference that the Prime Minister of TNT had made inside Parliament of country. Celebration of Gita Mahotsav will be taking place at the Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Cultural Cooperation in Port of Spain, and this coincides with Gita Mahotsav celebrations. Again, goes on to show the strong cultural and religious connect that is there. And remember, the Prime Minister spoke of how Lord Ram is venerated there in TNT. And joining us now is former Indian ambassador. We have with us Ambassador Anil Wadhwa. Yes.
Yes. Good evening, Ambassador Wadhwa. Thank you so much for joining us at this late hour. What do you make of how relationship between India and Trinidad and Tobago, country in the Caribbean, is being taken forward today by Prime Minister Modi himself being there, and well, not just the list of agreements and all, but the kind of sentiments that have been expressed and the kind of symbolism and gestures that have been made mutually?
Well, as expected, I think this visit is full of gestures and also the the connect that India has with Trinidad and Tobago. From the diaspora, of course, but also because of the fact that there is so much of tradition from India which continues to exist in this country. And the fact that both the Prime Minister and the President of the country are of Indian descent, 40 to 45% of the population is of Indian descent, adds to this connect. And we saw this on display today. I think the agreements and the MOUs that you listed out just now, they are reflecting also this connect in a way, because the Indian, connect of traditional medicine, of our cultural exchange program, and also the connect that we have with the diaspora, the requirement of Trinidad and Tobago for skilling, and of course the equipment which is required for agriculture. And by the way, in Trinidad and Tobago, the government of India has already undertaken a very important project with the UNDP, which is about the high and low cost technology combined, which means that whatever is appropriate to the situation and whatever industry it is, India will provide that, has provided that at a cost of $1 million. In addition, we saw today the granting of the agricultural machinery for $1 million also, which was announced earlier, by the way. And going forward, I think Trinidad and Tobago will also expect some, stacks, digital stacks from India, which will also be a connect and a model which has worked in similar situations in India, which it hopes will also be able to lift its population out of the mundane and connect it much better with the outside world, also make it more efficient. So these are all technologies and connects which India has chosen very carefully in this case, given the special connect with Trinidad and Tobago.
Right, Ambassador, stay with us. Let's tell our viewers a little about the developments as they are happening, and some developments have already taken place. The Prime Minister, in fact, is now closing in to the conclusion of the visit. Of course, we are waiting for to see what else is lined up, if at all. But for now, we'll tell you that while addressing Indian community members in Port of Spain on Thursday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that India is actively working on creating a comprehensive database of the Girmitia community and documenting the villages and cities in India from which their ancestors migrated.
Now, India is working to organize World Girmitia conferences regularly as well. In our next report, DD India's Akshay Dongre has traced the journey of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago, which began 180 years ago.
On May 30th, 1845, the Fatal Razak arrived at Trinidad carrying 225 Indian indentured laborers or Girmitias, the dawn of a transformative chapter in the Twin Island nation's history. The term Girmit is the Avadi word for the agreement. Girmitia stood for the laborers who came from India on an agreement with the British. Over the next 7 decades, nearly 1,44,000 Indians arrived between 1845 and 1917. They hailed mostly from present-day Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. 1845, Fatal Razak arrives in Trinidad and Tobago with 225 Indians. 1845 to 1917, 1,43,939 indentured laborers landed. 1902, over half of sugarcane farming managed by Indians. 1962, diplomatic ties formalized post-independence. 2025, Indo-Trinidadians and Tobagonians form approximately 42% of the total population. Over past 180 years, the Indian diaspora preserved their culture, built thriving communities, and now stand proudly at the nation's helm, with Indian origin Kamala Prasad Bisesar as its Prime Minister. Clearly, though the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago had a hard landing on the nation's shores, it has weathered many a storm to emerge at the top of its society.
Primarily, our forefathers came from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, and they brought with them a lot of folk traditions, including their Ramcharitamanas, which is still hugely popular here in Trinidad and Tobago. Our forefathers were simple but profound persons. They were simple in the skills that they came with, but they were very profound in the value system that they came with.
In fact, in his address to the members of Indian diaspora in Port of Spain, Prime Minister also underscored that India would be supporting several initiatives to nurture the Girmitia legacy.
We are actively working on creating a comprehensive database of the Girmitia community, documenting the villages and cities in India from which their ancestors migrated. Identifying the places where they have settled, studying and preserving the legacy of the Girmitia ancestors, and working to organize World Girmitia conferences regularly. This will support the deep and historic ties with our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago as well.
This year, the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago is celebrating 180 years of the first indentured laborers landing in the nation. From the first ship across the oceans to the halls of governance, this diaspora has redefined identity and nationhood. Their journey embodies survival, adaptation.
It comes from the word Girmit, which is contractual laborers.
Akshay Dongre's report from Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago.